Mata Sharanam Mama, Shri Aravinda Sharanam Mama. My salutations at the lotus feet of Swami Vivekananda. सभी को नमस्ते, respected principal madam especially, and all the teachers present here and dear students. Today, especially in this vibration, it gives a very divine feeling because seeing at so many students at a place together and observing pin drop silence, it is a rare sight. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for providing this atmosphere. So today, as Bhaiya said when he asked, have anyone of you heard of Sri Aurobindo's name before? How many hands were raised? Can I please know it again? Okay. So I don't know whether this just behind this wall thing there is a quotation of Sri Aurobindo with the picture. If anyone of you have seen it before. So if not, then I request you to kindly after the session you can go and have a look at it. So this itself shows the uniqueness of this organization of this institute, because as we get inside, we find a different kind of feeling with all the motivational quotes all around. So if you spend at least a few seconds every day going through the quotes, it would definitely help us in future. So now coming to the topic, as Bhaiya was saying, Sri Aurobindo's today we'll discuss about Sri Aurobindo's vision of the future world. Sri Aurobindo's vision is not for him, it is for the entire humanity, for every individual. Whenever great men come, they come with a vision. Vision means the vision of the great men are those which have already occurred in future. They have seen the future and they come to the present and make us aware of that. Like, if, for example, we being here, have you seen the moon? Have you seen the moon? Yes. So, who would give a better picture of the moon, an astronaut or us? Astronaut, like when Rakesh Sharma had went to the moon, went to the space for the first time, and after he came back on Earth, to India. That time, Honorable Prime Minister Ms. Indira Gandhi, she asked, how do you feel? What was our India's view from the space? Then what was his answer? Sari jahan se acha. So that was, if he could give the better picture of the moon or better picture of the space, and from there how our country looks like. So he would give a better picture or us? Definitely the one who has been there. Similarly, great men who have already seen the future, they come here to India, they come on to the present and make us aware what is going to happen in the future. Similarly, when Sri Aurobindo in 1918, as Bhaiya said, when he had already come to Pondicherry, after taking part in the freedom struggle of India, he had come for the freedom of the entire world and humanity. He was busy in his sadhana. That time in 1918, one activist from Gujarat, his name is Sri A.B. Purani. He had come to visit Sri Aurobindo for the first time. He was very much inspired by him and he came to visit him. Then he gave him update about the revolutionary activities that's being carried out. After listening to him, Sri Aurobindo asked him, but what about your yoga? What about your spiritual practice? Then Sri A.B. Purani said, India is not free yet. How can I switch on to spirituality? I am not getting sleep in the night just with the thought that India is still under the rule of the British. I am not able to sleep. How can I practice spirituality? Then Sri Aurobindo remained silent for some time and he said, what if you get the assurance that India will be free? Then he asked, but who would give me the assurance? Then Sri Aurobindo again remained silent for some time and he said, what, suppose I give you the assurance that India would be free? Then Sri A.B. Purani said, if you give me the assurance, then I take it. But again after a few days, he came back to him and said, is it guaranteed that India will be free? What assurance, what guarantee do we have that India will be free? Then Sri Aurobindo, that time it was just evening time, at the time of sunset, he was looking out of the window and this is what he said. You can take it from me, it is as certain as the rising of the sun tomorrow. Said, as the rising of the sun tomorrow, it is the truth, it is fact. Nobody can deny this fact. Similarly, India's freedom is a certainty, it is a fact, nobody can stop it. Okay. So with this assurance, when he got A.B. Purani, he went back happily. Then indeed, India, because Sri Aurobindo had already got the assurance that India would be free, and now the time has come for a higher work. So this was his vision for India, Sri Aurobindo, because Sri Aurobindo adored India as his motherland, which he has already mentioned in one of his letters to his wife, Mrinalini Devi. There he says that I have got three madnesses. One among his three madnesses is that others consider India as a piece of land, as mountains, rivers, and whatever we see around. But for me, India is my motherland, is my mother. And how can a son be silent when he sees a devil coming and sucking his mother's blood? Is it possible for a son to keep quiet and remain calm? So this was his feeling for his motherland, and this made him fight for his motherland. So then, as Bhaiya said, on 15th August 1947, when India was free, Sri Aurobindo, he was asked to deliver a talk on All India Radio. There he says that today is the most happiest day because I got the beautiful gift from the Supreme on my birthday. And what is that gift? The freedom of India. Although I got my gift, but the Supreme gave it to me in a divided form. I didn't get it in a complete form. What was it? The partition of India. Yes. So then again he says, but this won't remain. The partition won't remain, it has to go. This is what I have in my dream. So Sri Aurobindo says, I have 5 dreams which he shared there in All India Radio on 15th August 1947. So these are his 5 dreams. His first dream is to have a free and united India. So what is the free and united India? He says India is free, but it is in a crippled state. Suppose today, if there is somebody who is excellent in every field, but he does not have a hand or does not have a leg, how much ever he excels in everything, but will he ever be able to address as a perfect man? Will he be able to achieve perfection in this life? So, similarly, Sri Aurobindo says for India to fulfill its purpose in this world, on earth, it has to be united. Now it is in a crippled state, it has to be united. So this is what is said, for it is necessary for the greatness of India's future. These are the countries which will be united, and this is how the Akhand Bharat map will look like. All the 8 countries will unite with India to form the undivided India. So Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Burma, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Tibet, all these will have to be united. Now, our question is, does it at all look possible? No. With the present situation, does it look possible in any way? No. Because that's what again Sri Aurobindo says. Now in his subsequent dreams we will come to know. It does not look possible because we are still in our mental. As somebody said in the beginning, what restricts us from being free? Our mentality. Our mind has a limited thought process. It has limited idea. It only knows how much we can do. We know that we cannot unite India. It is not in our hands. But if this unity occurs, it will be by a divine power. So we have to submit ourselves to the divine power in order to go beyond what we see. So this is what is the first dream. And it is not possible by us. And again, Sri Aurobindo says, as all the countries, although they will be united, but they will have their special role, their own role to play in the aim, in achieving the aim. So second dream, as Sri Aurobindo says, is the liberation and council of Asian nations. So he says, all these countries, all the nations, how many nations are there in Asia right now? Any idea? Yes, very close. Yes, it's close to 50, around 46 nations are there right now. So, all these nations will come together to form a confederation. So, again here, Sri Aurobindo says, again, even in this, India has a greater role to play. Although all the countries will come together, but again, they won't be ruled by any authority, but by independence, by spirit. When everything, all the nations will be governed by will aim towards spirituality or will aim towards the supreme. It is only then they will come together. Even here, all the nations will have their different role. Their work may contradict each other's, but aim will be the same. As like for example, when we take the example of a vehicle, of a car, what is the role of a brake? And the role of the accelerator? But is anybody creating obstruction for the car to reach its goal among the brake and the accelerator? Both are helping the vehicle to reach its goal. So can we say that the brake is creating an obstruction because it is stopping the vehicle? Although both of them have a contradictory role to play, but their aim is still the same. Similarly, we'll have contradictory roles, contradictory work. Every nation will have its different role to play, but aim will be the same. So this is his second dream. Third one is the world union. Sri Aurobindo says, now the time has come for the whole world to be one. So this is not for the first time that we are listening, but from our ancient Vedas also we have, from our ancient scriptures. What is the slogan? Vasudeva, Vasudeva, Kutumbakam. So our entire world is one, but how? We hadn't found out the way yet. So this is now the fact, the truth has actually come down. If we won't be united by our mind, won't be united by our material achievements, but it is through soul, through the unity of the soul that we will be united. So this, if you can see the picture, have you ever seen this before, anyone? Any idea of what picture this is about? Alright, this is a place called Auroville. It is in Pondicherry. And as you see, the mother of Pondicherry, Sri Aurobindo Ashram Pondicherry, she had a dream of a place where an experiment will be conducted, where people from all over the world will come together They will stay there together. It will be beyond all religion, beyond any creed, any caste, any kind of limitations, beyond all limitations. And their only aim will be to live for the divine. Whatever work they do in Auroville, whatever work is being done, it is not done for money. It is done to prepare the body, prepare the mind for a higher cause, for the great work of transformation. So this is what is the, I'll also show you a video at the end of Auroville, a small video. And what the golden globe that you see here, it is the Matra Mandir, it is called. Again, it was mother's dream. It is constructed with the golden plates, and it has been constructed by people from all over the world, from all over the countries. They have come together, and when the construction of Auroville started, the soil from around 123 to 24 countries were brought together to form for this construction. Now you can see many work are being carried out, but all in a newer and different aspect, in a different perspective. But they are not doing it for any public recognition or something like that. But it is only to make our mind, vital and body to be a perfect instrument to serve the Supreme, to serve the Divine. So this is just an example, an experiment conducted by the mother. So whenever you get a chance to visit to Pondicherry, please do visit Auroville. Fourth, as Sri Aurobindo has, he says, India will be the spiritual leader. More and more human eyes are turning towards her with hope, and there is even an increasing resort not only to her teachings but to her psychic and spiritual practice. So when we look at the present condition of India, does it look in any way that India will be the leader of the world? Somewhere do we have that acceptance? We have? Yes. This faith, this belief will make India be the leader. Because as we can see clearly that Sri Aurobindo says that the best gift that India has given to the world is spirituality. Swami Vivekananda also says that every country has a backbone on which it stands erect. It helps a country to stand erect. It is the base. For some countries, the backbone is the economy. For some countries, their culture. For some countries, their politics. But for India, the backbone is spirituality. I'll just share a small example. Few days back, there was a small series on a travel channel, a traveler. A couple from France had come to visit India. The guide was an Indian. So when she was going and showing them around the city, somewhere in Maharashtra, somewhere, they were seeing India is such a beautiful place, but they were getting fascinated by looking at the roads, because in such beautiful roads there are vehicles running, there are people walking, there are buffaloes running, and the dogs are also running. So it was quite something different and peculiar for them. Then slowly when they went towards the temples, there they saw there are many stalls that have been placed. Then they were very happy with those environment. Suddenly their eyes looked up and they were very surprised and shocked actually. By what? They saw that all the electric wires all were clamped together and all were entangled there. Suddenly they asked, what is that? Then the guide looked up and she said, very coolly, she said, oh, those are electric wires. Then the couple is asking, but is it safe? Then the guide is very coolly, again she is replying, oh, in India, God is there, no? So everything is safe. So this may look like a joke. This may be humorous, but it has actually a very deep and significant meaning. Because if we look at ourselves, if we look around ourselves, can we see that because of any individual or any person that India is running safely? It is only the divine power that is making India run and making Indians be safe all the time. So, Sri Aurobindo says that India is a Shakti. It is a force. And if we are dissociated from this Shakti, we lose our identity. Once there was we can understand this by a small story. Once there was a festival in a particular village where the idol of the goddess, it was to be taken to the temple. After getting constructed, it was to be taken to the temple. And how it will be taken? It will be taken on the back of a donkey. Yes, so the donkey was decorated very beautifully because it will carry the goddess. So it was so beautifully decorated, and after it was with flower garlands and all those things were offered to the donkey, and agarbattis, diyas, all were worshipped before him, and the goddess was made to sit on him. Then it started moving. All the people around the village, they were coming and greeting the donkey. They were worshipping the donkey. They were offering flowers to it. And the donkey started feeling really great. What it thought? That I am so important that I am being worshipped so well. So once it reached the temple, the idol of the goddess was taken out and the idol was taken inside the temple. That night, the donkey had a very royal feeling. What it thought? I am the king, I am the deity, and all the people around the village will worship me, have worshipped me so much. So tomorrow I will definitely get a beautiful treat. So as the morning broke and there was no idol of the donkey, only the donkey. So what it did, it went throughout the village. It started hopping and galloping throughout the village with the hope that it will get a good treat from all the inhabitants of the village. But looking at the donkey, what the people did, they started throwing stones, beating it in the by sticks, and what it got was only beatings and insults all around. Okay, but why? Because it was great only when the divine was on it, when the God was on it. But without it, it is nothing. Similarly, we can be the leaders, not without the Supreme Presence, not by getting dissociated from the divine, but by being in connection to the divine. When we are associated with Him, only then we have our true identity. Only then we have our true purpose in life. So now we can see wars all around. But here the mother says that wars will always take place. But now the attitude that we have towards the country against whom we are fighting, what is the attitude? Is it the attitude of goodwill? Suppose now the war breaks between India and China. Will we have an attitude of goodwill towards China? Do we have an attitude of love towards China? We have hatred and bad will. But Mother says, till the time we have this attitude of hatred and bad will, we won't get permanent victory. Wars will always take place, like we see the war of Kurukshetra. So the people against whom Pandavas were fighting, were they their enemies? What Sri Krishna said to Arjuna was, you have to fight, you have to kill your near and dear ones. Why? For the establishment of truth, for the establishment of righteousness. So that doesn't mean that you will have an attitude of enmity towards them. You fight, but with full of love and compassion. This will be possible only if we get the inspiration from the divine. If we have the connection with the divine, it is only then we can have the attitude of love and goodwill towards even towards our enemy. So in one of his aphorisms, Sri Aurobindo also says that I see Krishna in my enemy's face. So when this atmosphere we will create around ourselves, if we try to cultivate this atmosphere all the time, even when we study, even when we play, all the time if we try to see the divine, divinity everywhere, this is what will take us towards the perfection, towards the aim. So, Sri Aurobindo, as we can see some of the quotes in India, now as we were saying, the present condition of India says that it is in a state of gloom, it is in a state of depletion. But what India has done, we can see as Albert Einstein, he says, we owe to the Indians a lot because who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. This, who invented, why does he say that? Zero. Where did zero come from? India. Today we say that the Wright brothers invented aircraft. But before Wright brothers existed, we had Ramayana, we have heard of Ramayana. How did Ravana take Sita? Pushpak Viman. Where did that technology come from? So even when we see our ancient, when we see the museum, Indian Museum in Delhi, there are many such sculptures which are so astonishing. The sculpture of the sun god, the sculpture of moon god. But how did that come from? Because our rishis, whatever they had been in connection with the deity. They have seen them in subtle. That's why they could construct them. So this is what is the glory of India. Even if you see the quotations of Mark Twain, he is known as the father of modern literature. India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great-grandmother of tradition. So our most valuable and most instructive materials in the history of man are treasured. So India, now the time has come for India not to go back to its past, but to replenish it and emerge with the newness, with a new, such as Swami Vivekananda says, now sages will come who will be much more ahead than the ancient sages. They will be far too advanced than the ancient sages. Here, so we have some quotes here, or by Sri Aurobindo, the mother and Swami Vivekananda can see. Here, mother also says that India is a living being, as much living as, say, Shiva. India is a goddess as Shiva is a god. If she likes, she can manifest in human form. So like each of us have a soul, have a driving power within us. Similarly, every nation also has a soul. Even India has a soul, now it has been veiled. So it is our role to put off that veil and again make it recognized, make it the leader of the world. The more we become conscious, we become aware of it, the sooner it will happen. Yesterday when the Aarti was going on, I still get goosebumps when I remember about the lines where it is, I'll just present the meaning of those lines, that apart from many wounds that the country has got, it has tolerated so much, but that is why it is called the mother. The more it gets wounded, the more vast it becomes and more compassionate it becomes. That is why it is India's future to be the guru of the world. So as Swami Vivekananda, these lines, he said when India was in the most rotten condition, it was in the most depleted condition with the British rule, under the British rule, That time he says, arise, awake, and see her seated here on her eternal throne, rejuvenated, more glorious than she ever was. Breathing it consciously, then it will be more intensified, the progress will be more intensified for the world to go for a change. So as Sri Aurobindo says, now the time has come for humanity to be transformed. Till now we knew that if we leave body, we go to heaven or hell. But Sri Aurobindo says, now the time has come, the earth will turn into heaven. How? When each individual will manifest divinity within itself. So for this reason, as we said, every act of ourselves, like now you are studying, we are playing, we are doing various activities. If we try to manifest the divine qualities within us at every instant, at every moment, it is only then that the divinity will manifest within ourselves and the earth will get transformed, the humanity will get transformed to a divine being. That's why Sri Aurobindo says, now man is a transitional being. Half of our part is in animality, and at the same time we have the potentiality of becoming the divine. So, as Swami Vivekananda also says, every man is potentially divine. So, this divinity will manifest completely within us, and the time has come because with the act of the supramental force, this has become a fact, a living truth. So, this is what we wanted to convey. This is Sri Aurobindo's, the mother's message. You can be sure that the best possible will happen and that the whole world is going as quickly as possible towards its golden transformation. So this is the truth, and the more we become conscious and put the word about to others about this truth, the more rapid will be the progress. Thank you so much. Gratitude to the divine. And thank you to all. If we have any questions from your side or anything to share, we can take it up for 5 to 10 minutes. Yes.
I have a question. How would you define divinity? That's my question.
Yes, how would you define divinity? Divinity, when we say all that is, if you say the good, we have the sense of discrimination at least. The one that is permanent, the one that is truth. If we say what is better, love or hatred, what would you justify? Love or hatred, which is better?
I think as humans, both are important. Both play a certain role in our lives.
Yes, but hatred is not permanent. If I ask another thing, if I ask you to smile, can you smile? If I ask you to get angry upon me, please show your anger on me right now. You are smiling, you are not getting angry on me. Because smile is our inherited, it is already there. That is the truth, that is divine. And it has to be permanent. But anger, hatred, they are just foreign elements, they are aliens to us. So they are here with us for a temporary period. But as long as we are invited there, as you said, both are important. They will make us feel their importance in our life. But do we want that forever? Do we want that this hatred should be in ourselves forever, permanently? No. But now when the divine qualities, this love, truth, truthfulness, these things, when these are permanent, these are our origin. So when these will be settled permanently within us, that is what is divinity. Which we don't want, which are foreigners to us, just for a temporary period, like fear. The mother says that fear is the most beautiful gift of the adverse force to us. The most beautiful gift. And the more we allow it within us, just an instant, we don't know anything about our near and dear ones. Suddenly you hear there is a plane crash. And somebody is supposed to come from in that plane only. We don't know whether he is actually boarded or not. What will be our thought? immediately we'll start getting we'll collapse. It is our experience. Then now today you are watching TV. Suddenly the news comes that there is a virus which has come and it is affecting everyone. The symptoms are you will get cough, you will get sneeze, you will get some itching. Suddenly you start, yes, I have been getting this few months back. This is what was happening to me also. Then immediately it will take a helicopter and land into us. Okay. So this is what these things are temporary. They are looking around where to find space, but they won't be permanently established. As there was a subtle conversation of the mother with a lot of falsehood. It said that I know that my time has come. I know that I won't last forever. But before I go, I will create a havoc in the world and I'll go. So now the time has come for the falsehood to get eradicated completely, and only that will remain, which is truth, which is divine, and only which is permanent, that is divine. Okay, so if you have anything, I know you still have some more to question, we can, yes, you can put your views on this.
That's okay.
Okay, we can also discuss about it personally. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
What's spirituality for you?
Sorry, what?
What's true spirituality for you?
What is true spirituality for me? Spirituality, divinity, all these things they have a truth, they are truth for everyone. If I say what is spirituality for me, that doesn't mean that the truth will take place according to my views. So spirituality is, as we say, what is your aim, if somebody asks me. But the fact is that the aim of every individual for a particular period, for a particular yuga, which is for a particular era, is the same. Some are conscious, some are not. For spirituality is the way we live, as I said, way we live our daily life. We are living in a particular way. But when the purpose, when the attitude towards life will change, it will be only by getting connected with her true self, which we say soul or psychic or divine, which is our true identity. When we get connected with that and live the same life, that is what is spirituality. Because it is spirituality which will take us to the aim of this life for which we are here on earth. So till the time we are not connected with that source, whatever we do, it will have, we will achieve materially a lot. But finally, as I said, like a donkey, the result will be zero without the divine. As I just have I remembered a small story. Once there were two people who were working on the field. One was digging a hole and the other one was filling the hole with soil. Then the third person, while going to some place, he saw that two men are working in the scorching sun. They are working on the field. While getting back, he saw the same scene. He was little curious. Then he went and asked, "What are you guys doing? You are digging the pit and one is filling it up with soil. What is the purpose of it?" Then the one person is saying that we were actually three and we had got a contract. So my work was to dig the pit. There was the second friend who had got the work to plant tree. And a third friend, and the one who is with me, his work was to fill up the soil. But the second friend who had got the work to plant the tree, he is absent today. But we are continuing with our work. Okay, so we are doing our work with full dedication and loyalty. So what will be the result of that work? Exactly. That is our life without divine. That is planned, which we are the soul, or if we are the soul or psychic, which we say, if we are not in connection, if that part is missing, then our whole work will have a big zero. So that is what is spirituality, being connected with the source, with the true source.
What does it mean by merging our soul with the divine power?
Merging our soul with the
Supreme power.
supreme power. Soul is like we can say, uh, there is this light or fan, whatever you say, the bulb. How much ever fascinating it may be, but will it have any effect if it is not connected with the source, with the generator, or with the substation, power station? No. So what is connecting it? Wire. So that is what is soul, which is connecting us with the supreme power, and we are the bulb. If that connection is missing, then we have no identity. How much ever we may be excellent, but if we are not connected with the source, if we are not in connection with that supreme, with the source, then we have no identity. And how to be in connection, as I said, at every moment, if we have little time we spend by thinking, whatever we do, whatever we speak, whatever we act, if little time we spend it, is it taking me towards the divine or is it taking me away from the divine? Like then I think, I'm sure that 90% of our words, we can feel that they are unnecessarily spoken. 90% of our acts are unnecessarily done. So if we become little conscious, then we can know that how many unnecessary things we are doing, how many unnecessary words we are speaking in our daily life. Okay, so you can do this as an experiment. Forget about a day, just try for 1 hour. Okay, that also we can know. Yes?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank you and sir for that wonderful session, and my Dr. Namshila speaker, Sri Aurobindo Swamiji. Sir, before gave us little glimpse of the vision of Swamiji and Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
Can you please elaborate?
About Sri Aurobindo's vision. That's what I just think in the 5 dreams. His main work for which he had come was there on the 5th dream, which I said, the birth of a new age, a new world, for which the entire humanity is sure. The mother says that man has now, who is the supreme creature on earth? Man, because it is now, it has evolved from who? We have evolved from animals. So what is the difference between man and animal? What makes us different from the animals? Yes? Yes. Suppose there is a tiger and there is a man. Who is more powerful, man or tiger? Why? Because he can capture tiger. Through what? Through his wisdom, through his brain. So we have developed mind. We have a developed mind. But Sri Aurobindo says, now the mind has come to such an extent, it has reached its totality, that now it, apart from getting so much of, making so much inventions and discoveries, it has also the capability to invent destructive things like nuclear bomb, atom bomb. This also, who is the creator of these? Man, through his mind. So Sri Aurobindo says that mind has reached its last rungs. Now the time has come to go beyond mind. So this is what is Sri Aurobindo's vision, that man, can we concentrate for just 2 minutes? So man has, now the time has come for man to go beyond mind. When we will be driven by our soul, it is only then that we will go beyond humanity. So to go beyond humanity in the process of evolution, as I said, man is a transitional being. That was his statement which had created havoc in the entire world. Because now the time has come to go beyond humanity, to go beyond man. As one step is in animality and one step is towards divinity. So to be a divine man, to manifest divinity on the entire earth, that is what has become the truth now after the descent of the supramental force. So for 40 years, as Sri Aurobindo conducted his sadhana, and he has also written 36 volumes, and Mother has also 17 volumes of her discussion with the disciples of the ashram and others. So all these writings of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, in all these writings they have been focused about how man is to prepare for that future world, for the future, for the divine world which is going to come right now. So this is what his vision was, and it has become a fact now. It is no more just a vision, it has become a fact. And the more we are aware of it, the rapidly the